While writing my code, I like to stick to the solid principles. The solid principles are a couple, well, really basic principles of object-oriented programming and design. The acronym SOLID stands for SOLID, which is Single Responsibility Principle, Open-Close Principle, Liskov Substitution Principle, Interface Segregation Principle, and Dependency Inversion Principle. Well, by design, WordPress sticks really well to the open-closed principle. Software entities should be open for extension but closed for modification. But the one that I'm going to be looking at in this lesson is the single responsibility principle. A class should have only one single responsibility, i.e. only one potential change in the software specification should be able to affect the specification of the class. Now, let's go back to our improved Dolly plugin and see what single responsibilities violations that we have in here. What is it that the class improved Dolly does? Well, first of all, it sets two actions, which kind of gives it away already that we have two things that this class does. This doesn't really have to be a bad thing right away, so let's investigate what we do. The Hello Dolly function over here, this calls this Hello Dolly get lyric function, and that is of course our big list of strings that then gets exploded and returns a random part of it. Yes, this is a single responsibility violation. This should be in a separate class. The reason why that is that this is it's a really isolated piece of functionality. In a real world situation, I would probably write an interface for this and maybe different ways to implement that interface as well, depending on what you would use it for. And not only does this make your code a lot cleaner, it also makes it easier to refactor the code without affecting the rest of your plugin. And maybe in the future you can even run some automated tests on it. So we are going to make a new class. In the classes directory, I'm going to make a new file with a title of class lyric repository. Even though it's not officially a repository by design, but I feel the logic behind it is really suitable for a repository, so just stick to that naming convention for now. The name of the class, well, this is a bit of a tricky one, because when I name it lyric repository, it's not immediately clear what plugin this class belongs to, and that's at the same time it's a good thing and a bad thing. For now, I'm going to stick to improved Dolly lyric repository, but we'll get into this naming convention later on a bit more. For now, we are just going to move this function entirely, move it inside of the improved Dolly lyric repository. Of course, we now need to change the reference inside our improved Dolly class. We now need to include that file, class lyric repository repository.php, and we need to make a repository object, and that is a new lyric repository. There we go. And then the Hello Dolly get lyric method is actually on the repository object now and no longer on this. Now let's refresh. There we go. It still works. Now that we've done that, something stands out to me. Inside the class improved Dolly Lyric repository. There's not much going on. We just want one of these lines, and to make that even easier for us, we can make this method a static method. What this means is that instead of having to make a new object of the repository, we can reference this statically. So we can just put the name of the class and then put 2 colons, and we can call this method as well. We don't need to make an instance of the Lyric repository. We can just do that without making a new one, and that makes sense because we're not going to use any properties or any other methods on this class. Now, just to verify, yes, it still works. Now, we also have this CSS. We're going to look at that in a separate lesson.